our penultimate session here today at Live at the Counter. We have a very special treat for you, our Partners for Growth program sponsored by Unilever, and an even more special treat, our very own David Rees, to take you through the mentoring program and to introduce our panelists. Let's give a very warm Live at the Counter welcome to David Rees.
Thank you, Max. Thank you, everybody. Yes, mentoring, that's the name of the game. It's in partnership with Unilever's Partners for Growth programme. We have a case study for you this afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. At the show last year, Unilever Partners for Growth launched a mentoring scheme which involves a cash prize and the benefit of the experience of some experienced retailers. Babar, say hello, Babar, at the end there. Babar is the winner of the mentoring competition for 2011 that was launched. Now Babar is extremely lucky because he didn't think he was going to win, but not only did he win £1,500 worth of cash to invest in his store, which is always welcome, but he's even more lucky because he's had some of the best retailers in the country to help him with his business, and we have two today. So Ramesh and Dean, both retailers from the southeast of England, but Ramesh and Dean are two of the four retailers who've been helping Babar with his journey over the last year, and we're going to kind of explore that now and say where Babar was and where he's got to. I'm going to start off actually with Dean and Ramesh, because you very kindly offered your time, you generously offered your time to help Babar. And when you got to the store, kind of what was your first impression, Dean, and what were the areas you think you really needed some help and assistance?
Good morning, good afternoon. When we first got to the store, what we found was, I mean, Babar, lives in a tough trading area and he's surrounded by quite a few stores and some very good stores around him, but at the same time, his store was by no means a bad store. But the biggest finding was probably he needed some disciplines in what he was stocking, brand-wise or quantities of stock, and just some ideas on what he could do with his business. What we've all done with our businesses, how we've grown our businesses, and he just needed the belief that he could actually use some of our ideas to turn into to profit for himself.
And so, to Ramesh, what did you focus on specifically at first? Was it is it a case of adding little touches of inspiration, or was there actually something quite fundamental about the operation of the store that you needed to look at?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Actually, what we did was actually obviously the store visit. The panel, the Partners for Growth panel members went round. We had a look at Babar's shop. We had a look at the competition within the area. And then went back again into Babar's shop and looked at the store in much more detail in terms of his categories, the way he had discipline within his store. And really after that we went back, we had quite an extensive chat with Babar in terms of what his aspirations were, and then out of them we actually drew out an action plan in terms of what we felt Babar could be doing short term, medium term and long term.
Was there anything radical going on in the shop? I mean, presumably the £1,500 is worth having, but it wouldn't pay for an extensive refit or anything like that. So Babar, what did you actually spend the money on, and kind of what was the areas where you think you got the best advice?
I've spent most of the money I've spent most of the money within the shop, including the services that are within the shop and advertising, just making a more shopper-friendly environment.
Yeah, that's great. And the changes that these two gentlemen and the other retailers recommended, how easy do you think it was to make them? When they said them, did it kind of seem like common sense for you, or was there a bit of resistance to make some of those changes?
Yeah, it was pretty common sense, but I weren't hitting on the right things, from the beginning. So it made me more aware, and it's been really good, really good help.
Now I understand that as a result of the advice you got and the changes that you made, your business went up 10% in the first year, and it's climbed again since then. So, Ramesh, if you walked into the shop now compared to the day when you first walked in, what would strike you about the difference? How different a business is it now?
I think it's quite an interesting question, David. I think when you actually look at the detail, when we first went in, there were a lot of categories that weren't performing as they should have been. I think one of the things we did with Babar was give him a spreadsheet, and it's not really rocket science. I think a lot of what Babar implemented was really low-cost things. I think it's very much what we had. It was just going back to the basics in the store. It was really cleaning up the shop. It was cleaning up the windows. It's bringing some degree of discipline into the stores. I think it's just fundamental sort of maintaining and sort of customer standards within the store. I think where it started changing was where we actually started looking a lot more at the categories and his space allocations. We felt some of the categories were overranged for what they were. So we were actually able to sit down with Babar and say, look, this is what you're doing on these categories. They're not performing as well as they should be, and he needs to obviously rationalize on some of those areas. I think going back in there, I think the key thing I think Babar's changed is he's got rid of a photocopier that was not making any machines, sort of put a coffee machine in there. He's put a food to go operation. He's cleaned up the whole store. The store is a lot more disciplined in terms of how it's managed. It's absolutely clean. So I think for me, it wasn't about money. It was more about the discipline and the attitude that Babar's actually got now, which is really, I want the shop to look good for my customers. And I think if there is any big factor, I think that was one of them.
Dean, would you agree with all of that, or is there anything else that struck you about what's been a fundamental change for Babar's business?
Obviously, the use of disciplines and categories has been a big fundamental change. I haven't been back to the store since, but I've seen it on video, and I've seen some of the results from him making the changes, and I've seen him. He's actually grown his store by putting in new categories like Ramesh said, like food to go, hot drinks, etc. Areas that he thought that were not attainable to him. He thought he couldn't do a food to go operation, but there's a very low cost entry into food to go, and it's proved to be a success. And he's gone on not in just that area, but in his category management areas as well. So he's listened to the advice, not just myself, not just Ramesh, but of 2 other retailers or 3 other retailers, and hopefully seen a success from it.
Great. Perhaps I should say at this point that anybody who wants to see this video, it's available on the Partners for Growth website. Tom, is that right? Yeah. So the Unilever Partners for Growth website, you actually see a video case study of Babar and his story. But what's interesting, obviously, Dean, Ramesh, you've been in the game for a few years. I won't say how long, but you've got your knowledge from somewhere. You haven't kind of just absorbed it from the atmosphere. So what are the good sources of information that are available to all retailers, that all retailers can access to improve this category management, to improve these disciplines that you're talking about?
Obviously, myself and Ramesh, we probably use TradePress has always been the first port of call traditionally, but now obviously the use of the web and the Partners for Growth website is a great start. And just going into other stores, myself, I used to go into successful stores, look at successful stores and looking at ideas and how I wanted my store to be, and I'd choose the good bits of stores that I'd see and how I wanted my store to look. But there's a wealth of knowledge out there. The web is a good start, but TradePress is a must as well.
Yep, very good answer. Read it or steal it, I think that was in summary. But and Ramesh, obviously, you know Dean very well, sort of through this programme, through your work with the ACS and other organisations. I mean, how important is it that retailers talk to each other and kind of share best practice that way?
I think it's absolutely important. I think just going back to your last question, David, I think one of the key things you asked on that was what were the changes in Babar's shop? I think probably more importantly for me, I think it was the change in Babar. I think that was more fundamental. I think, and I'm sure Babar will respect me for saying this, is that Babar as a retailer has changed. I think when we first met Babar to what Babar is now, I think the language that Babar uses has changed. you see some very successful retailers, and the language you can very much sort of see coming from them is very much in terms of sales. It's, you know, basket spend, is gross profit margin, is category management. I think those are maybe words that Babar wasn't using as freely before as he is now. And I think if there was one thing that we were able to do was to actually influence Babar in terms of how he actually saw retailing. And I think if there was one thing, then I think that's what most retailers that want to move forward need to be doing. And I think there are a lot of tools out there. I think there's the Partners for Growth website. Networking is very, very important, coming back to what you're suggesting. I think we live and feed off each other. And if you're not actually working with fellow retailers, learning from fellow retailers, then I think you as a business are not growing. So I think it's very, very important that we are constantly networking. We are coming to trade shows like this. We are looking through trade magazines. We're looking on websites. But I think there is no greater source of inspiration than a fellow retailer. That's so simple. I think one of I think Babar's first inspiration was actually going to look at a fellow retailer store that we had recommended. And I think Babar came back very, very inspired from that. And he said, look, that's exactly what I want for my store.
Perhaps we can ask Babar, do you feel changed as a result of this? I mean, are you changed the way you look at your business, the way you look at your shop? Are you changed as a person as a result of all of this?
It's definitely changed everything about the store. It's definitely changed the approach to the business side, and yes, really good results I'm getting.
So Ramesh, perhaps going back to you, are there kind of simple lessons that any retailer, do you think, can learn? You know, are there? We've got 50,000 convenience stores out there. Are there? How many of those do you think actually really kind of on their game all the time, or how many have actually got room to improvement?
I would say most of them, including us. I think there is no such thing as a business that actually is operating at its optimum. And even I mean, coming up here today, I've picked up so much which I can actually take back. To answer your questions, yes, I think there is always great room for opportunities. And I think sadly a lot of retailers tend to very much live within their own little world. They live within their own comfort zone. And you know, really it's a case of retailers sort of saying, look, I want to do something with my business. I want to grow it, and I think it's really, you know, with due respect, it's getting off the backside and actually doing something about it. And I think it is pretty simple. It's going out to see other stores that, you know, sort of are stores of excellence that are sort of forward moving. And, you know, most retailers are very, very keen to share ideas and information. So really the onus is on the retailer to actually get out there and want to do something about his business.
And just while you're there, Ramesh, the experience you went through with Babar and the help you gave him, did you learn something yourself from going through that process? Was there anything that you could take back to your business that was helpful?
Yeah, I think absolutely. I remember sitting down with Babar, and we spent a whole day together going through the mechanics and the fundamentals of running a business. And I think while you're there, you start re-educating yourself again, and you think, well, you know, I must go back and do exactly what I'm preaching. Because I think giving advice comes very readily. Putting in practice is a little bit more difficult. So.